Hi, everyone. Welcome back to You Had Me at Healthy. Today, we're going to talk about, and we have Jonathan back.
I'm back. We had a lot of outreach. All our fans were commenting and sending emails asking, "Where's Jonathan?" I am back, so everyone will be okay.
Yeah,
Looking forward to a good podcast, but I know your podcast last week was a really great episode,
thank you.
and I hope everyone learned a lot from it. So check that out. But I am back, so everyone hopefully is happy about that.
But today, we're going to talk about social norms, living in the Midwest in Michigan, and just handling, the standard American diet and just the social pressures and things that might come up when you're trying to live and eat a healthy diet.
And part of that's going to go, I guess, into our juice today. We have
Oh, yes.
our juices, and our juices are actually not homemade today, but still
All right.
good. But what we wanted to kind of get into today is the situation where you may not have the time or the ability to make something at home and you need to kind of have a backup plan. So what type of juice is this, Natalie?
This is a Suja brand juice, and you can find them at a lot of grocery stores, also Whole Foods. Cheers. It is a elderberry ginger probiotic juice blend, and there's only 4 grams of sugar in it. How's
Now,
it
is that
taste?
added sugar or sugar? What?
No, it's from the juice itself. So it is actually pretty low sugar, no added sugar.
And that's the key when you purchase a product and you're looking at the sugar. There's going to be natural sugar in lots of fruits and lots of ingredients, and that's okay. That's part of the type of diet you want to be eating. You want to try to avoid those added sugars. So when we select items like this juice, we look at the sugar added, and on the bottle it says zero. And we want as less ingredients as possible. So this particular juice is only has fruit in it, organic fruit. So it's healthy and it's good for us, and it's a good backup plan when we don't always have time to make a
Yeah.
juice.
Yeah. Sometimes you're on the road. No, it was great. It's a little like spicy, as the kids would say with the ginger. That's why I coughed. So sorry about that. But good choice on the juice. Jonathan picked that one up.
So what do we have today? You want to tell our audience where we're heading today?
Yeah. So I was just thinking about how things in our environment, people, society just kind of bombards you on a daily basis, whether it's the ads on TV. We're always watching the Yankees these days, and see every unhealthy commercial with fast food, pizza, beer, all of the things. And the kids, are constantly bombarded with those marketing images. On the flip side, there's, every other commercial now is Ozempic or some kind of drug to counteract all the bad food that you're eating. But you're kind of constantly bombarded. The people you might hang out with and the environments you're in, they might not be on the same eating plan. So just thinking about how do we handle that? How are our kids handling that? Because, it can be sometimes overwhelming and you might sometimes feel a little bit left out of the group.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Lots of the commercials you see on TV are lots of cheesy, greasy pizza, lots of meats, lots of, colorful snacks with lots of, food dyes and artificial ingredients. So it's difficult to navigate the eating world when you're bombarded with all these ads and all these influences, especially for a kid that their friends may be eating this type of food and talking about that food. So just trying to
Yeah.
navigate that as an adult and for your kids as well. But I guess what kind of prompted our conversation today? Was it something last night at one of our kids' school? It was kind of something we both
Oh,
find a bit
yeah.
not shocking, but typical of how people talk about food. So I guess share that
Yeah.
story with our audience.
Well, yesterday we took Jack to his 6th grade, like kind of like an kind of precursor orientation, because he's going to be going into 6th grade next year, and it's a really big school. And so they did a whole presentation. One of the things they talked about was like how the kids get excited because this new school has even more food options, and the kids were really, talking about the pizza. They had a panelist on the stage, pizza and cheeseburgers. And the vice principal even said, the lunches are paid for. There's a program, so all school lunches are free. But there's a la carte items now at this new school, which kids can pay for, and parents have to put money in their fund. And when she said a la carte, I'm thinking, ooh, fancy, like a la carte. I'm thinking, in my mind, my hope goes towards like cups of cut up fruit, veggies and hummus in a cup, you know, different options that you might have like a la carte, even like a sandwich a la carte. I don't know, like a healthy sandwich. But no, she said the a la carte items are ice cream sandwiches, ice cream cones, chips, and canned soda. So, or not canned soda, canned juice. They don't have soda yet in middle school, but they have canned juice, which in my mind is the same thing.
Yeah, it was a bit alarming, and the entire audience was excited. The kids, the parents were all smiling, like, "Oh, this is going to be the greatest thing ever." And although it may be tasty and it may be enjoyable and something to look forward to for the kids, and it's not going to be good for their overall learning experience, and it's not the type
Yeah.
of food that want to be fueling with. So my first reaction was thinking about, okay, if our kids are going to be eating that during the day,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, geez, like we really need to make up for it after, or if we're going to like a sporting event, or maybe we need to pack lunches, like kind of game planning what that's going to look like. Because I just imagine a situation where they're already going to be, options are not going to be great, chicken sandwiches or hamburgers, and then you can pick up an ice cream and some nachos, and
Yeah.
you're just going to fill yourself up with a bunch of empty calories that aren't going to give you the nutrients that you need to be a student, to be growing, and to be playing sports after school. So
Yeah.
it was one of those things where we really got to see just a giant auditorium of hundreds of people
Yeah.
kind of cheering on this standard American diet. And maybe there were a couple folks in the crowd that were thinking like, "Oh, that's not really the best thing for us."
Yeah.
We certainly felt that way. But it becomes difficult because when the kids are in school and they have 5 or 6 friends like super excited about the
Yeah.
ice cream, and then your child is there who, okay, I don't really have ice cream that much. I know that's not the best thing for me. Like, what do I do? So, Natalie,
Yeah.
what do you tell our kids in that situation?
Yeah, I was thinking about this and we haven't talked about it yet. But I do think, how do I handle putting money in Jack's fund? I think he will make good decisions, but I do think we need to have a balance and say, like, you can get something once a week or allow him. And I also was thinking, like, how can I make his lunches more fun? He does like to buy lunch because it's a boy thing and like a social thing, and they go in line together. And I think he feels like the odd man out bringing his lunchbox sometimes. But my game plan is thinking, how can I pack extra snacks for them in their backpack? Things that they perceive to be fun as like mom's healthy brownies. They look like regular brownies, but they have black beans in them. No one needs to know that. Fun snacks that are healthy that they're going to be like looking forward to, and they won't feel left out per se because they'll still have like something that kids perceive as fun, or even like a suja in their lunch, a juice versus like having the canned juice. There's just a little bit, a lot more healthy. And so, yeah, I think we will have to talk about that as a family, and we'll definitely have to prepare Jack ahead of time for school. So, I don't think he would, but just you don't want to be ordering an ice cream cone for lunch after, every day a la carte, like, is really a quick way to get unhealthy, have his skin problems come back, etc.
Yeah, and just him making that decision and being empowered to make good choices. We see those choices when we're out at restaurants. We see those choices in, the food that he picks on his own while at home. And we hope that he makes good choices at school. And it's not about depriving him of the experience, but giving him a good backup plan where he feels comfortable with the perception of his friends and, okay, oh, Jack's eating a brownie. That looks pretty good. And a lot of
Yeah.
times my own experience, like I've given Jack healthy versions of, kids' food like brownies or whatnot, even nuts or fruit. And a lot of his friends have been like, "Oh, can I have some?"
Yeah.
And I give them part of Jack's snack, and they're like, "Oh, this is the best thing ever." And I'm like, "Do you never eat cashews at home or blueberries or they're tasty foods, but sometimes
Yeah.
kids don't uh,
They're not exposed to it.
appreciate those type of snacks and foods that taste really good." So maybe empowering him to be the person who has really fun snacks and tasty things that's packed, and he can kind of supplement around what's served at school so he feels comfortable and kind of fits in with that crowd, but then has his kind of like superfoods and a backup plan with him so he has enough food, he's feeling good about it, and maybe he's getting some good feedback from his friends that, oh, Jack has really good snacks or really tasty things, and he's lucky. So it can actually put Jack in a better position having these things than not having these things.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's great. One other thing that kind of came up recently was Rosie had like a moment in the car after our Irish dance class and just talking about how she felt a little weird or not sure what to say because essentially, she's in an older class with more like preteen teenagers, and they're all talking about their favorite Taco Bell dishes, favorite sauces, favorite Chick-fil-A, and like all just chiming in, being like, oh, I love that. Oh, that, whatever. I don't even know the names of them. It's so good in that dipping sauce. And like Rosie was the only one not chiming in. And she kind of said, Mommy, like, I didn't really know what to say. I don't even know what those are. And I don't like it, but I don't know if I should just pretend and say something or what. And I told her, that happens to me too. So the moms also are like, oh, there's this new fried chicken place and like they got whatever. And I literally just sit there. I'm the only one who doesn't eat that food. And so just sitting there quietly, and it does take a level of like self-confidence and assuredness to just sit quietly and listen without feeling like you need to be like me too, and just being confident. I don't need to say anything or say, oh, I would never eat that, or say anything mean. I would never say that. Everyone has their own choice, but just feeling comfortable enough to just listen and be quiet. And I can smile and shake my head, but I don't have to say, oh yeah, I love that too.
Yeah, I think it's being comfortable with silence and letting people kind of share their experiences and their preferences, and you can nod and support them and smile.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it comes down to your actions are going to speak louder than your words, and you may bring your own snacks, and they're probably going to ask about them, and
Yeah.
you acting and showing what you're eating is more important than having words to say about their foods. And you don't necessarily want to try to correct them or coach them. Wait for them to ask about the foods that you're eating and your preferences, and be happy to share that with them. So let everyone have their own experiences. And if they choose to make changes and they observe them, that would be the best way to handle it. And it's not always easy for a child to do that because they don't have as much world experiences or confidence or in those
Yeah.
moments. But being secure in letting the friends, express what they love, and then just kind of nodding and smiling. And then if she has her own snacks, just like Jack with his snacks, they may really enjoy her snacks and say, whoa,
Yeah.
what's that? And kind of try new things. So it's just about getting your kids comfortable in those social situations that are not always as comfortable for adults as well.
Yeah, and I think really positive reinforcement. And so, like in the car, I just told Rosie how proud I am of her and how healthy she is, and just to really give her that confidence and make her feel good about what she's doing and say, you handled it just great. You just, no one's worried about you. You just handled it perfectly. So I think doing that positive reinforcement. Um, and then also, I was just thinking about how much of a life skill this is, like how they're developing the ability to say no to things as simple as candy and sugar and addictive foods, and how that's going to translate and carry them through their life. So when they're in their teen years and they're in high school and people are saying, why aren't you drinking? Or why aren't you, smoking or doing something that's harmful to their body? They've had all these years of experience as young children saying no to foods that harm their body and their brain, that when they're older, I'm hopeful that, they're going to be even stronger and more confident in their like identity as healthy kids, healthy human beings, and that they're going to be able to carry that through and have that muscle to say no to
Yeah,
things.
I see it as like leadership through nutritional choices of being a leader versus a follower. It's really easy to be a follower
Yeah.
and just, enjoy the same foods that everyone enjoys because you want to fit in and follow them. But the reverse of that is actually being a leader and kind of creating your own path and your own journey with food and getting others to follow you where you're going as a leader with that food. So it is a really good life skill. So I'm really proud of both of them
Yeah.
for adopting that.
Yeah, that's great.
And one of the big things that we've kind of noticed in this journey is sharing our food. And sometimes that's kind of sharing through like text messaging. And we were having a conversation about that before. So I guess kind of share with the audience kind of our old viewpoint and the things we see around us with like sharing our food versus kind of how we are now.
Yeah. Well, it kind of goes back to how people just love to talk about what they ate and how good it was. And there's a lot of proof there on social media where there's full, Instagram accounts just dedicated to sharing like the unhealthy food that people consume. But I know we used to personally do that sometimes. Like if I was traveling or I was away or I was texting you a photo of my lunch and being like, "Oh my God, this was so good." Almost like that drool-worthy picture with like cheese and whatnot. Um, and I noticed that habit a lot with like even dads and their sons and like being like, look at this big steak I just ate, or like I'm on vacation, like I got the biggest steak and like a lobster. And it's just like this like proud thing to text people pictures of your food. But it's just kind of again reinforcing some bad behaviors. I think where we've changed and something that we still have fun doing that is now we're like the people taking pictures of fruits and vegetables in the grocery store. Yesterday, I came across something called a peach arena, which I was like, I guess it's a blend of a peach and a nectarine, which Jack says he's like, by
Loves
hands
it.
down, best fruit ever, new favorite, peach arena. So find your peach arenas out there. But I took a picture of the peacherina. I thought it was like a beautiful peach and it looked great. So, now we're like, look at my salad. Like, this is awesome. I found this new healthy, like, restaurant. And so we text each other that kind of stuff. But it can be hard, I guess, if you don't have someone who is on the same path as you. What do you think about that? Or how would you handle?
So kind of creating a community around your choices. And there's lots of folks on social media that are sharing really positive foods. And I know that one of the things that you want to talk about today is kind of getting our audience to maybe share some of their choices with us, because if you don't have that community out there, we could be that
Yeah,
community to kind of celebrate the things that you're eating. And we're lucky to have each other. And that, if I make myself a salad and I use some of the ingredients, I'll send her a picture. Or if we're out separately with our kids and we find a good meal that's kind of the type of food we want, we'll take pictures of that. So it's keeping the same habits, kind of keeping the same kind of communication, but just the subject changes, right? That the food's changing and embracing different communities. And you don't need to like shun a community of people that eat that way or family members.
yeah,
That's their own choices. But finding people to celebrate your new choices with is really impactful, because you need that support system.
yeah,
If you feel like you're in it alone, it's not always as easy. So if you don't have someone, my advice would be to educate others and invite them into your community and show them what you're doing. It could be a spouse or a sibling or a friend or a coworker. Or if you don't have that, you can certainly kind of share that with us. And what we'll do is we'll put in the show notes kind of how to share that.
yeah,
And we can kind of share that on social media, like kind of the best submissions or things that we really find
yeah.
to be exciting.
Yeah, you can. I love it. Like some of my friends tag me on Instagram when they do really healthy snacks for their kids. Courtney did that before, and I know Emily does that sometimes. Tags me when she makes her juices. So you can tag me at Natty Paul, and I will reshare your beautiful things, and I will cheer you on. I will tell you how amazing you are. I'm a really good cheerleader. So you can always share those with us because we will be your number one fans. And I think that also kind of brought something up in my mind of like, how do you handle changing your lifestyle if your spouse is not on board, and just some ideas around that.
So you're asking me that
I,
question?
I mean, I can talk about it unless you want to.
So if the question is if your spouse is not into it, so if I was in a different relationship and
Yeah.
my wife was eating a bunch of tomahawk steaks and lobster and I was eating my salads and tofu
Yeah.
and she was looking at me like I was like crazy or different,
Yeah.
Well, it's like that Seinfeld episode, right? With Jerry with the mutton and he just the salad and he's with the lady at the restaurant
Yeah.
and she's eating the mutton and there's the dogs and all that. And he kind of feels uncomfortable. But I guess it goes back to what we were talking about with Jack and Rosie, right? To be comfortable in your own choices. And obviously,
Yeah.
Jerry was eating that salad for his own choices, right? And he has that episode where he wants to still fit into his 31-inch jeans and he scratches out the 32 and he's real health conscious. So shout out to Jerry Seinfeld. So it's those choices you're making and the reason why you're making them. And we always talk about the why, right? We're eating this way because we have reasons and kind of focusing on your whys.
Yeah.
And if your spouse isn't into it, that's okay. They're going to make their own choices. But I think the key to it is to provide foods that taste really good. Because I think the main perception is that like, oh, those foods over there don't taste as good or I won't get enough protein, or there's just something like weird about it. Where we are on the opposite side now, where the standard American diet just seems really strange to us, and almost like when people were smoking back in the day, and
Yeah.
there's all these studies out there that show that smoking was terrible, but people were still doing it. The main reason why is because well, everyone's doing it. Even my doctor smokes.
Yeah. Or
So
it's okay. They said it's okay in moderation.
and there's just as many studies out there now that show this standard American diet is just as bad as smoking, but people still do it because others are. So my big kind of journey with you was seeing the foods that you're eating and tasting them, and you made really good foods. I said, "Oh, this actually tastes really good." And then I kind of found my whys and learned about it. So it wasn't like an overnight thing. I didn't change overnight, but over time, the foods were really tasty. And I kind of made goals for myself and created my why and why I want to do it. And then it became a habit. And I don't even think about eating certain foods anymore.
Yeah.
Um, so if I was in that relationship with the lady eating all the meats and lobsters, I would try to prepare really tasty foods and slowly try to bring her on to the healthier side of eating. But I'm lucky to have you,
Yeah.
and I'm not, what do they call it, man hands in the show or mutton something? I don't know what they call
I
the
think the
character.
man hands is a different
That's a different
episode.
one. Well, I'm glad to be with you and not with her with all her dogs and handkerships and all that craziness in the episode.
That's funny. So yeah, I was thinking about it. I think it's just about being confident again in your own capacity to change and being proud of that and setting an example. So even if everyone else isn't following you or your spouse, just having that, yeah, really strong why and purpose, you're thinking about your future self and what would that person eat and not just do I need to fit in with my husband and it's okay to be different. Eventually, he might come on board. You can have your own section. I know I had a client who was like, I have my weird, or my husband calls it my weird Trader Joe's foods and my like own section of the pantry. But like, good for you. Like, you created your own space in the pantry just for your healthy foods, make a space in the fridge. Eventually, it'll be out with the old food and in with the healthy stuff. But it takes time. And so the more you can be self-confident and just believe in what you are doing and just keep going forward because, there's plenty of other people out there that will support you.
I think part of the reason that people kind of resist it is I think they see that it's manageable within the house. Like the foods, like if one spouse is buying the groceries and cooking the foods, like okay, like this tastes good. Like I have like a meal in my house, meal or two. But it's like, what am I going to do when I go to work? Or what am I going to do when I go to a restaurant? Or we go on vacation? Like that outside world seems super scary to like
Yeah.
make food choices and just kind of thinking like, whoa, what are my friends going to think? Or, there's not going to be anything on the menu or these restaurants that I like going to, like my whole life's going to feel different. I think it's fear of the outside world prevents people from making these really good choices because I think they just fear that like outside the bubble it's going to be really difficult. And it's like, why even change if I'm not going to be able to handle it out in the outside world? So I guess this kind of transitions us to our kind of final topic is we were talking about vacations and some of the habits
Yeah.
we've changed where we acknowledge that the outside world can sometimes be challenging with the foods out there. So making a conscious effort to try to bring more of those food choices back inside a place where we can control that. And that would be on vacation and maybe shifting towards having a kitchen on vacation versus having just those restaurant choices. So
Yeah. I think it's great because we still like to go on vacation. I would say we're not real big fans of like cruises with all you can eat buffets. That's not our style, but we love going up north in Michigan. And last time we went, we had a bigger room with the suite, and my parents stayed in the same room with us. So we had a kitchen. We were able to do some things and make some foods. We also really, I think, prioritize and love Airbnbs now because we find unique experiences and like beautiful locations in the woods or by the lake. And it's so much fun to find some unique grocery stores up north, get great ingredients. We go to all the farm markets. There's roadside farms, fresh blueberries, fresh foods up north, and just celebrating that in the summer. And I get very excited. We're going to be going up north in August, and Jonathan doesn't even know all the details yet. um, but to plan out these beautiful, like farm to table meals that we're going to have, and we got a beautiful fireplace. We're going to have like a great view. We're going to be outside all the time doing activities, golfing, swimming. There's tennis. There's all kinds of stuff that we can do, hiking. So it's just going into vacation with a totally different mindset that I think we used to. We used to go into a vacation just like thinking about all the big places we were going to go for dinner. Like there was this huge steak place, and it's like, where are we going to go to this big log cabin steak place and get this giant steak and baked potato with sour cream? Now it's like, wow, what kind of like literally amazing meal can I become Giada and just make this beautiful Italian meal? And it's more fun, and I feel like it's more creative, and we get to bond over food as a family around a big dining table versus like waiting in line for over an hour to go to this big feast of a restaurant.
And the kids really like going to the grocery store. It's fun to find a new grocery store with new things there. And it can actually be a lot cheaper to make
Yeah,
really great meals at home because when you go out to a restaurant on vacation, the prices are going to be super high and you're leaving a tip and you're there waiting. And if it's a really popular destination, it kind of could take up your whole night. Whereas
yeah,
on the opposite, you could be preparing the meal, the kids could be playing, they could be helping you cook, participating in the whole process, and it does lead to better bonding. And instead
yeah.
of your kids kind of sitting at the table on their devices and waiting for the waitress to come over to take the menu, they're instead helping mom and dad prepare the meal and set the table so it can create a better overall family experience and you're eating much better foods.
Yeah. So I'm excited to get my menu planned out. It's going to be epic. I'm also really excited because I just bought some new mason jars. I got little ones, and I'm going to be making my homemade jams. So somewhat inspired by Meghan Markle. It might be like numbered 1 to 50. I don't know. If you're lucky enough, you might get a jar of fresh Michigan made jam with all of the good Michigan berries that'll come into season with chia seeds in there too.
That sounds good, and looking forward to vacation. When you mentioned the cruise, I like cringed, like thinking about like if we were going on a cruise, what are we gonna eat? Like you're stuck on that ship, and like it just seems
Yeah.
like it'd be really challenging. Although I know one of our favorites, Dr. Furman,
Yeah.
does a cruise, and maybe we'll join him one year. So Dr. Furman, we hope to come on your cruise one year. It sounds exciting, but other than that, cruises
If you're
seem
not on a health cruise, it would be a
yeah, it seems
challenge for
terrifying to
sure.
be on a standard American diet cruise for sure.
Yeah. And the funny thing, I was telling Jonathan, I don't know if it was like real or not, but on Facebook, White Lotus, if anybody's a White Lotus fan, they're going to be at a vegan resort next season in Greece. So kind of excited to see, the drama that unfolds, but also like what they're eating in Greece, in on the White Lotus.
That sounds good. Yeah, it's always exciting to see. We always try to find documentaries or movies or just content to consume because we feel part of that community and we want to watch it. And it kind of always reinforces our choices. And it's always exciting to see new content
Yeah.
out there. So that's exciting to hear. Do you have any funny stories to share with our audience this week?
Oh,
I
hmm.
know last time you're kind of stumped. I can start with
Okay, go
mine.
ahead.
Well, going back to taking pictures, this morning I had a workout and I went to go get a good healthy breakfast. And the place where I was at, there was this giant big gold plastic container it said 100 ounces on it. And I'm just thinking, like, I hope this lady who has it has water in there or like something other than just like 100 ounces of coffee or like Pepsi. And I had to take a picture for Natalie. I took it
I don't know how
discreetly.
you got that picture. It looked like you were sitting next to her.
I Well, she walked off to do something else, and I kind of pushed her thing to the left a little bit, and I took a quick picture. But as she was coming back, she kind of saw me take a picture of it.
Oh my
But
God.
maybe she was super proud that she had
Larry David.
such a big gold cup. And it brings us back to when we lived in New York. We'd see a guy with giant like iced coffees, and he actually had like a holster belt where he had like one on the left, one on the right. I think those are 64 ounces. And then someone told me he's actually a professor at Columbia, which Natalie still doesn't believe me, but
He also like chain smoked. He never really went into Starbucks. He'd get his giant coffees in a holster, which, yes, I know it's hard to believe, but this is New York City. There's like a lot of
with
interesting
cargo
stuff.
shorts on.
Cargo shorts, two coffees, and smoked constantly. He would smoke, smoke, smoke. Then he'd go back into Starbucks. Maybe he'd write in his journal and go back out and have another cigarette. But we were like, we didn't have phones with cameras then. Dang it.
I
I really,
know.
we would have snapped a pic.
And if there's anyone that lives on the Upper East Side in Manhattan or did in the past, I'm sure you spotted that guy at one point. But yeah, this lady kind of brought me back to that. And I used to have a lot of big gulps at 7-Eleven, mostly like Diet Pepsi. And it was one of those things where it's like so proud to have such a big drink. And like, I think
Wrestling figures on
yeah,
the outside.
yeah, WWF cups with wrestlers on them. We had a joke back in the day in the big 2 liter. And when our kids were young, it was about getting like the big slushies and like being proud of that. But that's back in the day now, and we're much different now. But just kind of seeing some of those old habits and just observing them, and like at the school last night with everyone cheering on the nachos and the ice creams, and just kind of okay, like that's their thing.
Yeah.
Or this lady at the breakfast this morning, that's her thing. She can do what she wants to do in there. But I was hoping and fingers crossed. I'm like, I hope she just loves drinking water and she's just staying hydrated.
I
But based upon my other observations, I don't think there was water in there. So hopefully, I don't know. That's her thing.
Well, this is okay. This isn't a recent funny story, but I'll just share it because it actually is like an inspiring thing for me that stuck with me. So, when we also lived on the Upper East Side, Jonathan and I, our favorite thing to do was like on Saturday or Sunday morning, we would get our bagel and
It was Sunday
coffee.
morning. Yeah.
Yeah, Sunday morning. We get a bagel at H&H. The guy already had my, I don't know if he's just like, kind of light like that. Oh, this nice, cute girl. I was very friendly, gave good tips. Had our sandwich like ready to go before we even got in this like giant line. So I could skip the line and then we'd go over to Starbucks. Jonathan would secure the best seat. He had the newspapers. I had my fashion magazines back when I was doing all my design stuff and our notebooks. And we get all set up because we plan on sitting there for a couple hours and doing our thing. Well, there was always this woman who I, no kid you, was like 80 years old. And she would come in on her bicycle to the Starbucks.
I think she's a former model. She was really tall.
Yes. Tall and like the longest legs, super in shape, and would wear like tight spandex shorts and like a spandex like crop top type situation. And I just remember being like, wow, how different she looked compared to other people and just how confident and like bold. And it still is just that image that sticks in my mind. I mean, like, I want to be like her when I'm 80. I want to come in on my bike, super fit, and just like, not afraid to be myself and not like, I'm not coming in with a cane. I'm not wearing, I don't know, typical grandma wear. I'm just like owning it and living my life, being healthy, being out and about. And so that kind of sticks with me.
Yeah, I think this episode should be called Celebrities of the Upper East Side. Just seeing people out there and just the difference between the two people we mentioned, both living in the same neighborhood, but certainly had different habits
Yeah.
and just probably lived a different lifestyle. So everyone's lifestyle is for them, but you find your why, you make your choices, and every day kind of adds up to an end result where you see yourself down the road. So every day, every choice kind of counts there.
Yeah, it's so true. Everything adds up and it really compounds over your life. I think sometimes parents, like their kid might be like really skinny and like they say, oh, they're so picky. So I only feed them like, I don't know, mac and cheese or whatever it might be, but they're just like, they don't like anything. And yes, the child is like skinny, but it's not just about weight. And I think sometimes women, people get very caught up on like weight and, well, I'm not overweight, so I'm okay. But you could be eating really unhealthy things, your child who only eats mac and cheese for their whole life, like that's going to add up. Eventually, they might become overweight, but they're going to have so much just like internal things that aren't good and health problems. And so, what is on the outside doesn't always reflect what's on the inside. A lot of times it does, but not always. And you could be thin, but extremely unhealthy, just drinking coffees and smoking cigarettes and having fast food. So, I don't know where I'm going with this. You might have to reel me back in. But you were saying all the little choices add up in your life.
Yeah, she's bringing it extra this week because she didn't have one the last time, so she's going on and on with her funny one. But no, it is really helpful. I think it kind of expanded on with what we were talking about in the beginning. And just one more observation, I saw something on like Instagram last night or something where some mom was talking about being a nutrition person, but she pretty much threw in there like, oh, we've given up on our kids eating this stuff. Like it was more like her and her husband and kind of like, oh, we love this food. And you're like, oh, well, our kids, like, they don't even like it. So we just, and like the kids were eating like mac and cheese, and the mom and dad are eating this like elaborate, like healthy meal. And it's like great that, the mom and
Yeah.
dad are doing it, but kind of giving up on the kids right away. And it's probably because the food you're preparing may just be a little too exotic for them or too flavorful, maybe kind of start off at a different level, but
Yeah.
kind of giving up on the kids eating. I don't think that's necessarily the best thing. Their kids want to be like mom and dad. They want to, follow their lead. And, if you make good foods, they're just looking for tasty foods to make it fun. And I know Natalie did a really good job with our kids when they started like making things fun. If they were healthier versions, just making them fun versions just to kind of entice them.
Yeah, and I will include, I have a really good, made me think of it, mac and cheese recipe that the kids absolutely love. This is one meal like we rarely have leftovers
Is
on.
this the Rips one?
Yes,
Yeah,
it's
we love Rips. Good. What's it called? Engine 2, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
Engine 2 cookbook, but it's not mac and cheese or mac not cheese. I don't know. It doesn't have cheese in it. It tastes like it kind of has cheese, but way better, way better.
What's in there? What's in?
It's like a cashew-based sauce, roasted red peppers, nutritional yeast, might have some garlic. It's so much flavor, like lemon juice in it, which makes it kind of bright. And then you make like, that's not all the ingredients. You make it in the blender and then you mix it with the pasta sauce or the pasta, bake it in the oven. I usually sprinkle a little breadcrumbs on top, just to make it crispy on top, but it is so good. And I always have green vegetables with it. Mix peas in it if you want. You can put broccoli florets. So I'll put the recipe in. So if anyone's struggling with kids who only want to eat Kraft mac and cheese, this will convert them, your husband, and everyone else.
It is really tasty, and the kids really like it. And I think we discovered it watching something on Netflix where Rip was preparing it, and Natalie kind of joked that like he did it in such a guy way. It was like kind of how they cook in the firehouse. It wasn't like beautiful looking. It was very much like how a guy kind of cooks. I was like, oh, that looks pretty easy. Natalie makes it really pretty and like makes it even better than the way he does it. But I did appreciate the fact how he was preparing, and he's like, I don't care what it looks like. It tastes good and it's good for
Yeah.
me. So sometimes the food you eat does need to be the most beautiful or prepared, like a gourmet chef. But there's different ways to tackle it. And I know that you're a really good chef. But if I was preparing it, the kids will look at it like, "What's this?" And anytime I make things for the kids, they're always like, "Ah, it kind of looks different, but it's still healthy for them." And the inside of your body won't know the difference how it looks outside. But
Yeah.
you do a really good job with that.
Thanks. And it's Rip Esselstein. I'll include the links so you can check it out.
Sounds good.
Do you have anything else or are we?
I don't have anything else, but I'll be here next week, so don't fear. I'm not leaving any more episodes, but I'm glad you got to do a good episode with Courtney and continue
Yeah.
doing those because I think they're really helpful. And
Yeah.
maybe I'll do my own little podcast with someone we don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, that would be fun. Sounds good. Thank you. And we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Bye.